Hi there, Forest River owners. Today in your 2018 Forest River Rockwood Mini Lite, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install Lippert Components Solid Step. And this is what our steps look like when they're installed. This is going to be a heavy-duty upgrade for your trailer to ensure that you can easily get in and out without any accidents. A lot of the steps that are on your trailer before, they make no contact with the ground and they just hang down below. And if you're going in and out real fast, maybe you're moving a little bit faster, carrying some items, those steps can wobble on you and it could cause some imbalance to happen. These are extremely sturdy. They've got a very wide step. They have grip tape on them, and boy, this is some really rough grip tape. You can probably hear it on my hand there. And it's going to ensure that you can easily get in and out without having any issues. Especially if you had a few drinks at the end of the day there and you're walking into the trailer, you want some steady footing to get inside and go to sleep. And they're even easier to store than your factory steps. A lot of times those things get kind of bound up because they move in some weird positions. This guy just simply folds right into position, clicks into place, and that's it. Shut your door, and you're ready to hit the road. And we can take a look here at the old factory steps and how they work. They kind of have to pull out like that. Then you got to fold it down, and when you're stepping in, you can see this whole thing kind of moves. The whole trailer almost even moves because you don't have that secureness to the ground, so you're disturbing people as you're getting in and out. It definitely doesn't feel very stable. And the top here, it's not so bad. It's got almost like a carpet you'd find in a boat in it, which does help prevent it gets slips. But watch when I go to put these back. I got to flip it up. And these are kind of old now. They're not nearly as easy. It doesn't just push up. You gotta find that sweet spot and then get them back in. Why deal with the hassle when you can have something that's going to be solid, reliable, and long-lasting? We'll begin our installation by taking our old steps out of the way. This is going to interfere with our install. On our trailer here, they're only held on by 4 bolts. There's 2 on each side here at this top bracket. We're going to go ahead and remove these 2 carriage bolts right here, and we'll just end up leaving this bracket right here in place so they can always mount up a different set of steps if they ever need to. These are just carriage bolts, so you don't need to put a wrench on the other side. I usually just put my thumb on it to hold it in the square. That's going to keep it from spinning. And we're just going to use our 15mm socket to remove it. Now what I like to do to ensure these steps don't fall on me while I'm down here working is after I get it loose, I'll just put it on just a couple of threads, and that way that bolt can't fall out of there. We're then just going to take this one out and do the same thing. And then the 2 on the other side, we're going to loosen up just like that. So now that we've got them all loose, I like to use my legs to just support it. I'll just get up under here, finish taking off those nuts that we just had on there by a couple of turns. Slide the bolts out. Do the same thing over on the other side. And then we're just gonna gently lower it down and set it aside. So now we're going to take our new steps here and we're going to be setting them in position. What you'll notice here on the top, you've got a couple of little pins here. These may or may not be inserted. They may just be empty holes. If they are inserted, we need to remove those because this is what we're going to use to set up the position for our mounting bracket there. So just pull those little caps out of there. We're just pushing them from the back side to remove them if they were inserted. If they're not inserted, then you're ready to move on to the next step. So now we can go ahead and just set our steps into position here. It's going to hang over the edge. And on this particular trailer here, it looks like our mounting bracket is not going to sit flush against the floor, and we need it to sit flush against the floor. So this strip here is going to have to be removed so that way our bracket can go all the way against the floor. It looks like it's just some screws right there, and we can take that strip out of there. So we're just going to remove these screws here. And then we can get that out of the way so we can sit flush on the floor. So now when we set it back into position, we can see that if we push down on our little bracket there, it does go flush down to the floor. which is what we're looking for. So at this point now, we just need to center our step in between our door opening. So we're just going to take it and we're just going to measure from the edge to here. Looks like we're at about 1.5 inches there. And on this side, we're about 1.75 inches. So we're just going to move these over until we get it all lined up. Also making sure that our bracket here is flush up against the edge on the inside. If we were to kind of pull outward, that it's as square as possible. Now we need to determine which hardware we're going to use for our particular application. If you have wood floors, you'll use the provided wood screws. But if you have laminate floors like we do, we're going to be bolting it together with the long bolts that you see here. You'll get washers and nuts with that as well as lock washers to secure it. There's also another plate that's going to go on the bottom side that's going to allow us to secure these. So now that we've got it in the appropriate position, depending on which flooring you have, you'll want to drill it out differently. If you've got wood floors, you'll want to make a pilot hole using an 1/8 inch drill bit. But if you're going to be using the bolts like we are with laminate flooring, you're going to drill out holes using a 13/64 drill bit, because we want it to be as tight as possible, and we are going to be sealing these up to keep moisture out as well. The covers that we removed will give us access to one of the mounting slots on our bracket that's underneath here that has the flip portion to it. So we can go ahead and get those secured. So we're going to push this down and make sure that we are up against the end there and that it's square on each side. So just double checking that. That's all good. We'll go down through the center here and then we'll drill out our hole. Once you've drilled out the hole, to ensure things just kind of stay in position, we can take our bolt and drop it down in there. We're then going to do the same thing over here on the other side. So now that we've got these pushed down in there, we're going to head underneath. We'll go ahead and bring our hardware with us, and we're also going to grab our backing plate and get that secured from the bottom. You're likely going to need a razor knife to gain access due to the undershield that's on the bottom of your trailer. We're now underneath, and you can see here this is why we needed our razor knife. We're not going to be able to get to the bottom of the floor to see that hardware. We're just going to trim this out so we can get into there. So we're just going to cut it down. Same thing on the other side, just cut it down some. And we're going to cut it across the front here like this. And then we should be able to pull this flap down to give us access to where our bolts are. And we can see those here and here where they're coming down. So now we're just going to take this mounting plate, we're going to lift it up into position, we're going to slide it over our holes. We're going to be using these ones here. This particular orientation here is not going to fit because we're going to be hitting against our trailer side, so we're going to have to put it this way. You just have to use it how it does fit. It's going to line up with the outer holes right here. So then we're just going to take a flat washer followed by a lock washer, slide it up onto our bolt, and then grab a nut, start it on our bolt, and just spin it up on there. And then we're going to do the same thing with the other bolt that we had dropped down. Now that we've got them loosely secured, we can take a 10mm wrench to hold our nut here, and then we'll go up on top and we'll use our screwdriver to tighten down our bolt, because this is way too long. You're not going to be able to get a socket deep enough to tighten it from the nut side. So now I'm just reaching up in here with my 10mm wrench, putting it on the nut, and then up top I got my screwdriver and I'm securing it to the floor. And then we're going to tighten up the one on the other side as well. So now that we got those secure, we can lift up on our steps. You do want to be careful when lifting them. It is just the 2 bolts holding it there. We're going to raise it up, and we want to see if our latches catch, and they don't. You can see they're just going to fall inwards, and we don't want that. These latches here should line up right there. They should butt up against that to keep our steps from falling all the way in. So since they don't, it's not a big deal. We have adjustments for that. There's 3 bolts here. And it's the same on the other side. There's 3 bolts. We're going to loosen those up, slide it out until we make contact. So we're just going to loosen these up with an 11mm socket. Don't need to go crazy loosening them. And now that we got it loose, you can see we can adjust it out there. And then we're just going to snug it back up. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing over here on this side now. So now that we've got those adjusted, you do want to give it a wiggle test first, just to kind of simulate the vibrations you would get when driving your trailer down the road. We want to make sure this isn't going to come loose on us. So looking pretty good there. Then you want to check the operation of the steps. If we pull our handle here, they do release and it slides out. And then we can slide it back in, and it locks back into place. So now that we've got that adjusted, we can return our focus back onto our brackets here. We're going to drill down through all of the remaining slots. Try to stay towards the center of the slots if you can, because that'll give you some minor adjustment on your steps if you need to make some small tweaks later, if you didn't get it quite perfect on that first measurement, because it's pretty normal that it's going to move just a little bit when you tighten things down. We have the option to loosen those up and adjust it there. So we're just going to drop down our bolts now into all the holes that we just drilled out. And if you had the wood floor, you would just run those wood screws down into it. And then we'll secure it on the bottom with our nuts and washers. Again, if you had the wood screws, you'd be pretty much done at this point. But we're going to go ahead and get these secured on the bottom now, just like we did with the 2 that we started with. So now that we've got all of them started by hand all the way up, we're just going to grab our wrench again, hold it on there, and tighten it down like we did with the first ones. So now that they're all tightened down, we're just going to double check our operation one more time. Looks like we open up and close okay there. So the caps that we had previously removed, now that our hardware is all tightened down, we can reinsert those caps. At this point, our steps are installed, so when you want to use them, all you really need to do then is just make sure your feet here, see how they swivel, make sure it's in a position to where when it hits the ground, it's going to contact flush. It does swivel, so if it's not perfect, as long as you get one piece to hit, it'll adjust itself out. And you'll also notice there's some little pinhole slots here. If you're on uneven ground, or maybe there's a dip down there, you may need to extend or retract your legs to adjust. And sometimes one leg might be different than the other, just depending on the campsite you're at. In our particular situation here inside of our shop, we've got a nice flat floor, so everything is good there. We don't really need to make some adjustments. And that completes our installation of Lippert Components Solid Step on our 2018 Forest River Rockwood Mini Lite.